When is the best time to go fishing in Animal Crossing? But actually though, if your goal is to make bells as quickly as possible, what is the best time? Well, there's a few factors to consider when determining the answer to that question. When I look for a good time to fish, I look for a time that has a lot of high-value fish, and when those high-value fish spawn the most often, and also when low-value fish aren't as common. And that makes sense, right? Big honkers worth a lot of money that you can find often without having to sift through a bunch of worthless bycatch.
Hey guys, at the 33 second mark of this video that you're watching right now, I used a word, bycatch. I didn't know that this word was offensive to fish. I did not realize that this was a problematic word amongst my fish viewers. I just wanted to apologize. This is not the kind of person that I am. I hope that you forgive me, and I can only apologize. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
So with these factors in mind, I created the Animal Crossing Fishdex, which helps determine what the best time to fish in every Animal Crossing game is. And when I say the best time, I mean the best month and time of day that is most lucrative to fish. As most of you know, some fish in the game are seasonal, meaning that they're only available between certain months, and oftentimes only available during certain times of days within those months. So we list our months, and then we list our times of day. Astute viewers will note that August and September have been split between their first and second halves. You can basically blame these two. The jellyfish, back when it was an actual fish that you could catch, only spawned from August 16th to the 31st. And the salmon spawns all throughout September, but changes from the river mouth in the beginning of the month to just the river in the second half of the month. So these fish necessitate the splitting of their respective spawning months because of how they affect the spawn rates of every other fish. Then each month features 3 different times throughout the day that fish begin and stop spawning: 9 a.m., 4 p.m., and 9 p.m. You should really look at these times as ranges of hours that start at the displayed time and end at the next time. So something like the giant snakehead only spawns from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., so only the 9 a.m. box would be filled. The sea bass spawns all day, so of course every box would be filled. Some fish stop spawning at 4 a.m., but every fish that does that also does it at 4 p.m. as well, meaning their columns would be exactly the same and thus redundant to also add 4 a.m. So with months and times listed, now we'll find the spawn rates for every fish during these times. These values are taken straight from the game's data and made publicly available by these kind people. The first generation Animal Crossing game's spawn data is a small part of a larger effort to document everything about the original Animal Crossing, being done by Kyler, Phil Macakaira, AlexBot, Chubbybub, and Soleil. Wild World, City Folk, and New Leaf spawn rates were found and published by DrewPag, and New Horizons' spawn rates were found by Ninji and published by Indigo One. And it's through the efforts of everyone listed here that this project was even possible. So with spawn rates now input, we now know what spawns when and how often it spawns. So now we can give every time frame a value score, which is simply the sell price of the fish multiplied by the percentage that it spawns during that time. Value score looks to tell you what fish is the most worthwhile to catch during that time. For example, if you were playing Animal Crossing Wild World in the month of April at 4 p.m., you might think that something like the coelacanth will earn the highest value score given its sell price of 15,000 bells, but it only spawns at a 1% rate, so the value score will only be 150. Compare that to a red snapper, which sells for 5 times less but spawns 8 times as often. That earns it a value score of 240, meaning you'll expect to earn more money from finding red snappers at that time than you will from coelacanths. So if we take fish spawn rates and multiply them by their sell value, we now get this: every fish's value score during every possible time that they can spawn throughout the year. But that still doesn't necessarily tell us what time is the most lucrative for fishing. The final thing that we need to do is look at every month and every time during that month and get the average value score of every fish that spawns during that time. Typically, people think that the summer months are best for fishing. So let's take July at 9 p.m. in Animal Crossing New Horizons as an example. A total of 44 fish spawned during that time, and the average value score of those fish is 69. By comparison, December at 9 p.m. features only 26 fish that spawn, but the average value score of those fish is 88.2.
Oh, wow! This really breaks the conventional logic that people have towards Animal Crossing fishing.
So now we're finally able to answer the question at hand. What is the best time to fish in Animal Crossing? Since every game features different fish and different spawn rates for those fish, I figured that we would answer this question for every game in the series. So we'll start with the first generation of Animal Crossing games. I mean this in the most endearing way possible. The first generation of Animal Crossing games are totally busted. And even though I never played it when I was young, thus I don't share the same nostalgia for it that I do Wild World and City Folk, for example, it's quickly become one of my favorite games in the series since I've started playing. Fun glitches, cool Easter eggs, fun characters, broken turnips, and you can do this with your items. That's satisfying. It also did one thing that no game in the series has had the gall to do since, and that's make it so sea bass don't spawn all year. Indeed, there is the tiniest little window between August 16th and September 15th that your oceans are free of this beast. Now, in the second half of August, the jellyfish spawns, which is even more common than the sea bass and worth even less. But on a rainy day between September 1st and September 15th, the stars align to create the most broken time to fish, not only in Animal Crossing for the GameCube, but in the entire series. There's only 3 fish that spawn in the ocean during this time: the red snapper, the barred knifejaw, and the coelacanth. Meaning the worst thing that you can catch in the ocean during this time is still worth 3,000 bells. When you account for all fish that spawn during this time, the average value scored during September 1st through the 15th at 4 p.m. is 304, but in reality, any time during these dates would be very, very lucrative. The reason as to why it's so broken is because the first generation of Animal Crossing games really did not have many ocean fish, only 5 total. Make it so the 2 least valuable ones don't spawn, and it's no exaggeration when I say that you can make millions of bells very easily. The top 5 fish by value scores are the red snapper, coelacanth, barred knifejaw, large char, and crawfish. Outside of the ocean fish that we already talked about, the large char earns a high score because of its 10,000 bell selling price and relatively high 11% spawn rate in the waterfall. The crawfish does not sell for a lot, but it's the only thing that can spawn in the pond at this time, meaning it technically has a 100% spawn rate, and given that it sells for 250 bells, its value score is 250. But honestly, don't even bother leaving the ocean when you could be doing this instead. Look at that, dude. Look at that. Oh, that's fucking nice. When Nintendo saw how much fun people were having making loads of money while fishing, they decided that they would never make that mistake ever again. So when developing Animal Crossing Wild World, they made some pretty significant changes that nerfed fishing pretty hard. For one, they made it so that the sea bass spawn all year, eliminating that small, glorious month that we had before. And second, they also added many more fish to the game, most of which are in the ocean. Even over 20 years later though, the disproportionate amount of freshwater fish compared to saltwater fish in the original game can still be seen. While subsequent games in the series have closed the gap between the two, Animal Crossing New Horizons still has more fish outside of the ocean than in it. Technically though, it was the Japanese exclusive Dobutsu no Mori E+, released after Animal Crossing but before Wild World, that actually added many of these new ocean fish. But for many of us, Wild World was the first time that we saw many of these creatures. But because of these new creatures, fishing in Wild World is comparably much less lucrative than in first-generation games. By diluting the literal pool of fish that can spawn in the ocean, a lot of Wild World's best value fish are now found in the river. Despite the differences, though, between Animal Crossing Wild World and its predecessor, the best time to fish is still on a rainy day from September 1st through the 15th between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. But the fish that you're looking for during that time are different. Now you're looking for the salmon, char, dorado, barred knifejaw, and shark. Being as common as it is, the salmon might seem a bit out of place compared to the rest of the fish that I listed, but it's because how common it is that it winds up here. They're by far the most common thing that can spawn during this time, so you can fill up your pockets pretty quickly with them. And being worth a surprising 700 bells per salmon, a pocket full of them adds up. Of course, you will also hope to find other, more valuable fish too. While you're browsing your rivers, you can also run into the char by your waterfall pretty often, worth 3,800 bells. That's much less than in the previous game, but it's also much less large. There's also the Dorado, newly added in Wild World and worth 15,000 bells. And while they're not in the top 5 for value scores, there's also Arowanas, Arapaimas, and Gars out there as well, and all worth decent amounts too. If you're checking your oceans, barred knifejaws, sharks, and coelacanths all share a value score of 150, being that the barred knifejaw is worth 5,000 bells and spawns at a 3% rate, and the shark and coelacanth are worth 15,000 bells and spawn at a 1% rate. The average value score of fish during this month and time is 71, which is much less than the previous game. And while it stinks that fishing was nerfed pretty hard in Wild World, the good news is that it gets better in every game after it. Animal Crossing City Folk is the game that seems to have changed the least from its predecessor. Similar style, similar characters, similar music, and the eponymous city wasn't enough to set itself apart as much as people would like. But with regards to its fishing specifically, it actually ended up being much different, with the best time to fish being in February at 4 p.m. rather than September. Though September 1st to the 15th is still good in City Folk, it's made slightly worse due to the addition of the surgeonfish, butterfly fish, moray eel, and ray, all of which are worth decent amounts, but don't spawn often enough to justify their sell prices. That lowers the time frame's average value score from 71 in Wild World to 65.4 in City Folk. Meanwhile, the tuna got a significant buff in City Folk, going from a 2% to a 4% spawning rate, while still selling for 7,000 bells. That increased the average value score for February at 4 p.m. from 61.8 in Wild World to 71.7 in City Folk. And because of that, the new best time to fish is on a snowy day in February between the hours of 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. You'll find tunas fairly often from huge shadow sizes in your ocean, and occasionally those huge shadow sizes can be coelacanths as well. Also in the ocean is the football fish, which spawns at a 6% rate and sells for a decent 2,500 bells. Like Wild World, though, you'll also want to focus on river fishing as well. The bitterling earns a good value score because it spawns very frequently at 18% and sells for 900 bells, making it similar to the salmon in Wild World, where it may not be all that valuable by itself, but you can fill your pockets up with them pretty quickly. They'll be good for lining your pockets while you look for other valuable river fish, like the stringfish, worth 15,000 bells. While February at 4 p.m. was the best scoring time frame in City Folk, it did only narrowly beat out September 16th through the 30th between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. That time features a value score of just 0.3 less at 71.4. During that time, you'll want to look for a lot of the same things that we discussed in Wild World segment. The difference between these two time periods is pretty negligible, so whether you choose to do one or the other probably does not make much of a difference. I think it's a good thing, though, that there seemed to have been an effort to make fishing more lucrative across different times of the year. Animal Crossing New Leaf introduced Tortimer's Island, which was a fun inclusion to the series that added minigames, exclusive items, and a chance at being able to make a lot of money. Being that the island features a fixed season and fish that are exclusive to it, it necessitated an additional time frame to our spreadsheet. Along with the months and the times that have remained unchanged thus far, we'll now make a new column for the island, broken up by the same 3 times of day as every other column. And being that the island doesn't have a river, it leaves only a maximum of 23 ocean fish that can spawn there, including the ribbon eel, giant trevally, and whale shark, which are exclusive to the island. Despite this, though, the island scored pretty average for value score at all times of the day, with the best fishing time being between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. Though that does tie in nicely with when the rare palm tree beetles spawn, a common method for farming bells in Animal Crossing New Leaf. So while you're going between your palm trees, you can take a glance at your ocean occasionally to supplement your beetle farming with the occasional shark. But if your goal is to fish and nothing else, then the best time to do that would be, once again, in September. Unlike GameCube and Wild World though, you'll want to be in the second half of September, between the 16th to the 30th. On a rainy day, between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m., you'll find sharks and coelacanths spawning at a very generous 3% and 2% rate respectively. There's also the ever-reliable red snapper at a 7% rate, and the barred knifejaw at a 4% rate available as well. The only thing that makes the top 5 for value score that doesn't spawn in the ocean is the salmon, which is once again very commonly found in the river at 700 bells per. While I was playing though, I never found any temptation to leave the ocean unless it was making a retail run to sell my fish. Selling for amounts close to or over 100,000 bells after maybe only a half an hour of fishing was a pretty common occurrence. Though, if your goal is to make money in New Leaf, I would be hard-pressed to not suggest beetle farming on Tortimer Island as the best means of doing so. But if the toil of bug catching ever gets to be too dull, always remember that the ocean will be waiting for you. Say what you want about Animal Crossing New Horizons, but I personally enjoy the fact that they stopped doing this shit where they split the stupid months. Finally, a clear 12 columns for each month where spawns aren't changed halfway through August and salmon stay in the same place throughout September. New Horizons continues the trend of improvement that has occurred since Wild World as far as how lucrative fishing can be. The average value score of the best time to fish in New Horizons makes its largest jump in the series so far, up to 106.4, and the time frame that features that score is in November on a rainy day between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. The best value score for a fish during this time is the sturgeon, newly added in Animal Crossing New Horizons with a spawn rate of 4% during this month. It's the only month where it spawns even more than 2% of the time, which begs the question of why exactly that is. Real sturgeons prefer the cooler waters of the winter season and will often feed up during this time before winter slows their metabolism. This behavior seems to be reflected in the fish's spawning rates throughout the year, and I for one think that the careful research done for the sturgeon and many other fish in this series to ensure a degree of accuracy in their spawning patterns is pretty neat. Another good thing about the sturgeon is that it's available in the river mouth, which is connected to your ocean, where the remaining 4 fish in the top 5 spawn. Coelacanths spawn at a decent rate of 2% given their 15,000 bell sell price. Blowfish spawn fairly often at 5% and are worth 5,000 bells, and share a shadow size with red snappers and barred knifejaws, who have shown up a lot in the top 5s across the series as far as their value scores. And that's why I love them, all reliables. But it is pretty convenient that all the best scoring fish in New Horizons are in or near the ocean. The only thing that scores anywhere close to the top that isn't in the ocean is the golden trout. But that's pretty far out of your way to go to the clifftop rivers to try to catch one. Plus it'll also probably take a lot of bait. So just like New Leaf, you're better off staying on the sand. One other fun feature of New Horizons is the ability to sell your fish for 1.5 times its normal value to CJ if he's on your island. If we take our top 5 and adjust their sell prices accordingly, the value scores increase significantly. So if the stars can align on your island, a rainy day in November at 9 p.m. with CJ in town, that is the best time to fish in Animal Crossing New Horizons. If you ever want to go over the data for fish spawning and see every fish's value score across the entire series, the link to the Animal Crossing Fishdex can be found in the description and the pinned comment. The Info tab of the sheet also contains useful tools to help you see what the best catches are for you right now and during a custom time that you can set if you time travel. Select the time and the date that you're playing in, and it'll list the top 5 fish by value score for each respective Animal Crossing game. If you're looking to find a specific fish, you can use the Fish Finder tool. Select the game that you're playing and the fish that you're looking for, and it'll tell you what the best time or times to look for it are. And the Best Times tool will basically just summarize what this video talked about, giving you the times where fishing is most lucrative for whatever game it is that you select. Make sure to make a copy so that you can actually utilize these tools though, and also make changes to the sheet for your own purposes.
Don't request any access around suplex your whole family.